Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, November 28th SIG Release meeting. My name is Jeremy. I'll be the host today. Before we get started, this meeting is covered by the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, so please be mindful of the things you say. We'll also be recording this. We are recording this, and it'll be available on YouTube. So if you don't want to be on camera, please feel free to turn your camera off. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And we'll start off by welcoming anybody that's new to this meeting. I'll drop the agenda into the chat one more time, just in case anybody joined after I did that before. Cool, there we go. If you could add yourself as an attendee, that would be super great so we know who is here. Looks like mostly familiar faces. So I don't know if anybody wants to say hello or if it's been a while. Feel free to do that. Otherwise, we can move on to subproject updates.
Yeah, I'll say hi. So my name is Drew. I work as a shadow currently on the doc sub team. And normally I can't make this meeting because of a conflict with stand up at my day job. But today I wanted to swing in and say hi and listen.
Awesome. Welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay. We will move on to our subproject updates then. And I guess I can start the update. We are going to delay the patch releases. I think Marco opened an issue yesterday to update the calendar. I'll see if I can find that and we can drop it in here. Essentially, we can't merge cherry picks right now because master's frozen. So we wanted to give people a little bit of extra time because of the impending 129 release. And doing so allows us to give people a little bit of extra time to get some cherry picks in because of the code freeze that's enforced right now on master. On the topic of release engineering and some tooling things, we had a problem with the tests generation for the RC0. So for anybody that hasn't done releases before, when we do the RC0, we cut the we cut the branch for the release. And that generally brings along with it some things like addition of new test grids and jobs for those branches. The tooling that we have for that has had a couple of hiccups since the 127 release, I think. And we have not fixed that yet. Gonna start working on that though, because so right now the process is that we have to manually run the config forker. We have to comment some things out of the test config file. So it's a little hokey and a little hard to deal with. And in this case, we ended up not having some things added to the 129 jobs that were required for the alpha features and cloud provider stuff moving out of tree. So like one of those jobs was broken. We had to go and edit the generated test file because the current script is also breaking on that. So there's some investigation that we're starting to do around that stuff. Probably rewriting the generate test piece in Go so that it's a little more testable, a little more understandable by a wider swath of folks. The config forker and the rotator are already in Go now. So like getting it to Go, I think will be a nice, also like easy thing to keep that stuff kind of in sync. There's also been an issue with the publishing bot, which isn't really something that we're maintaining, but just for people to be aware, we did not publish the tags correctly for the RC0 because the publishing bot's broken. A lot of folks have been looking at it since last week to try to get it to work. We found a problem. I fixed the problem, and then we found some other problems on, we think, some Go dependencies that were bumped. Some Git dependencies were bumped. So we're taking a look at that. It's running right now. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it picked up RC1 and everything will be good.
Yep. On the brand generator that generates the all of the dashboards and all of that, it did have like a revamp. I think it was around 125, 26. Test Infra did an update on it, and it ran well for one release. But the problem with that one is, I think it has two problems. One, it has very little maintenance. So whenever things change, my feeling is that sometimes things change on the job side, and then no one updates it.
Yep.
And then the other problem is that it really only runs 3 times a year. It's very, very hard to keep it up to date, or to know if it's going wrong. It also points to the lack of testing.
Yep.
But the problem is that, I don't know, it's one of those things that it's very, very hard to schedule or to think about ever fixing, because we have so many other pressing needs, and then you think, well, how can we ever devote time to this one? But yeah, I mean, hopefully this time something good comes out of it and we can find a way. But I don't know. I don't know what the others' views are on software like this that runs every so often, and it's also open to externalities that make it fail. But yeah, well, maybe there's no answer, right? That's the other one.
Yeah, but I think it'll be a good opportunity for some other folks, like within SIG Release, to learn it a little bit better. Maybe that'll be a fun project.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Is the problem with the tooling, or is it the job that's generated?
A little bit of both.
It depends, yes.
Yeah.
Well, this time around, I heard it was the job that was generated because it was missing very configuration required to make it work with the provider.
That was this specific failure, but
Okay.
it doesn't generally work right now. Like there's a make target right now. If you read the docs for like preparing the branch, there's a make target that's supposed to run the config forker, the rotator, and then the generation stuff. And that should do all 3 of those phases for you. When we extended the release for some things, and we added like another stable version marker, that started to break things. So that's one problem that is in there. By default right now, it's kind of dumb. And like when you run it, it expects to do the rotation, and we don't always have branches out of support at that point, and it will tend to roll them off and like generate the new ones when it shouldn't generate the new ones yet. And then it has some dumb logic to look at like the number of files in the directory right now and like determine if, oh, I need to roll and create a new one right now. So when I tried to run it before, it went to generate 129 and 130 jobs, which it shouldn't do. So there's some things inside of it that have some assumptions baked into it based off of the way that things used to work. And those things aren't necessarily true today.
And yeah, some of the background is that, these jobs are also used to, the generated jobs are also used to do, we have an org called Kubernetes Security, right? And that org was meant to kind of be available to the SRC, the Security Response Committee, to be able to run jobs in the same way that we do in all of the public Kubernetes orgs. There's been lots of back and forth to the point where we ripped out all of those jobs. So one of the first things that happened was we took out all of the job generation for Kubernetes security. Over time, our release process has changed overall. So the script worked. I think the make generate target works with a very simplistic logic that Jeremy had mentioned. It kind of assumes that there are X amount of releases at any given time, and the person that's running it basically needs to have reasonably intimate knowledge about what point of the release cycle that we're in, and what should be happening at that point, because it's a bit of okay, I need to delete this set of jobs first and then do this thing, right? Mm-hmm. It also adds some like flags and various things for some of the generated jobs that should only exist in alpha stage or should only exist in beta stage for like if a feature's in a certain stage of maturity. So it's a lot of fun to kind of reason about what should be happening at the time. And then as we change some of the capabilities of the release to like, okay, we're going to cut branches on, we're going to cut branches during the RC as opposed to during the beta. So that kind of changes how the job needs to work as well. And then I think this time around we skipped the beta and went to the RC or something. which probably had some repercussions as well. Another piece of the failures that we ran into is after the release cycle, after the branch is lifted, there's after like we cut the dot zero, there's supposed to be another run that happens, and it never does. And like I'm guilty of it as well, but like it never does. And that run is supposed to clean things up in preparation for. It's supposed to shift the version markers over like one level, in preparation for the next time that runs. But yeah, because it is something that we run like 3 times a year, it's hard to get eyes on.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other questions for release engineering? We have a topic at the bottom in open discussion, so we'll jump down to that when we get there.
I'm going to make a comment.
Yeah, go for it.
Is that you had mentioned something about the publishing bot. The publishing bot is actually a release engineering subproject. Part of the release engineering subproject. So if we are not feeling as much ownership over it as we should, then we should do something about it.
So quick poll, who feels like they have good knowledge and ownership of the publishing bot?
No hands.
Yeah.
The people working on it are not on this call, so
exactly. I spent some time becoming familiar with it over the weekend, because I felt like I didn't really have any good in-depth knowledge on it. Is that a conversation we want to have with the folks that are actively maintaining it, or do we want to have people spend some time to bring knowledge back?
Yeah, I think maybe there was a session that happened during KubeCon. I'm not sure if that was recorded, but it might be good to do that live or recorded in a SIG release venue, just to go back through that. Publishing bot classically has just been this thing that has existed, and at the time, I think at the time that I was getting more involved with SIG release, there were maybe 3 people who had access to the various components that were, to get involved with it. That has changed somewhat in terms of like who can access what. I think there is more access delegated to release engineering. But we are in a place where I think it's not so much a matter of access; it's a matter of familiarity. Arnaud?
Just to answer a German question, I don't think we need to have a conversation for people because Wayland is already owner of publishing bot code, so we should just get into it and try to fix whatever it's broken.
Yeah, and I think it really is less of a. I think it's less of a is a thing broken at any one point in time. It's more of a how familiar is this team with it today?
Yeah. Can we maintain it?
That's the actual problem. And yes, I'm familiar with that file. I'm probably the one who made the updates to it when we were originally having these conversations. But the reviewers, approvers are not necessarily always indicative of who has the most access and knowledge to the thing. So release engineering reviewers and release engineering approvers and SIG leads were added as because we have ownership of this project and break class, et cetera, but we are not necessarily the ones actively maintaining it.
yeah, that repo has too much bash in there.
Yeah, there's one change being made, I know, from to use git filter branch, but I think there's some active work that they're interested in doing and kind of like moving away from the bash. If you stare at any of the darker parts of the project long enough, you will find a pile of bash running some sort of critical infrastructure for us, unfortunately.
All right. So I added a note to the agenda that we should follow up on the publishing bot after this and figure out some good next steps. Anybody have anything else on that topic? All right.
Just
oh, yeah, go for
quick. You mentioned a couple of issues that are open, people can help out with. I think they're not linked in the doc. Would be good. I'm not volunteering here. Just curious.
Open issues for
the publishing bot. Or everything connected to it, basically.
Yeah, so there's a separate repo that owns that called Publishing Bot. There's a few open issues that are kind of linked in there. I think that's the most
okay, all of them
up to date. Yeah, there we go.
Awesome.
Yeah, like rewrite verify publishing bot.py and go. That's probably a good one. Run the prod publishing bot as a periodic job. That's probably another good one to do. Some of these are a little old at this point, but I think in general, if folks are interested, it would be good to just become familiar with that code so that you have some context and can be available to maybe help maintain it.
And can you just like question, can you test out the code without having access to the deployment infrastructure? Because everything is, you need to be like a branch manager, for example, to have access to Google Docs and stuff.
It depends.
Mm-hmm.
I think at some point when I was doing publishing bot testing, I had a separate org running things against because you kind of need that to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a doc in here on how to do some of that. I found that this weekend and like how to run it locally. Basically you need another org. You need to fork the Kubernetes repos and have copies of them. And that's how you do the testing. Other than that, it doesn't have tests that don't work against like GitHub, right? Like the tests are run it against GitHub and test it that way.
Sounds good.
And inside that directory, you'll find there's a bunch of config files under artifacts manifests that have like how you deploy publishing bot to like a kind cluster if you wanted to run it locally, or another Kubernetes cluster. If you want to just run it as a Docker container, some instructions on how to do that too.
Okay. Maybe just as an idea, if some of the issues do not really require like a lot of testing, just like a little bit like bug fixing or something, maybe we could add like a label or so. Maybe it could help. But yeah, sounds good. Awesome.
All right. We can move on to the next topic on the agenda, which is OBS packaging. Don't think Marco is on the call. Does anybody have any updates for that one? Otherwise, we can follow up async for updates there. Oh, I guess it says no updates right now. Or no, go ahead.
The only update I'm aware is basically we want to make a full copy of all the package published inside Google infrastructure and move that to a community-owned bucket and eventually expose that for public consumption. I think it's working on that currently, but that's like the only update I have.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a OBS specific thing, but that is definitely something that's happening right now.
No, it's not OBS related. It's
right,
more
just packages.
But yeah, packages. We do a snapshot and expose that to the public.
Yeah. For folks that aren't aware, there's going to be a change sometime next year early to drop the packages that are currently hosted in apt kubernetes.io and deb. I think deb.kubernetes.io, the legacy stuff that published in Google infrastructure. That's going to go away. So we need to make a copy of that stuff so that it's available for everybody, even though all of the packages for things that are currently supported live within OBS. This is kind of like a archive things and make them available for people for older things.
I heard that Marco had a copy already of all of the legacy buckets. I don't know if anybody is aware of that.
Yeah, he says he has a copy, but it's not complete, and he has some scripts that generated that that he needs to polish a little bit, and then he'll make it available. Okay, supply chain security updates. Do we have anything to update there, Adolfo? It says no updates.
Not yet. The last one was when we met. I don't remember if we met with SIG Security. It was here, right, on our meeting, the last meeting that we held with them.
No, I think we had the tooling meeting the day after.
Okay, yeah. So we after we had them in our meeting, SIG Security, we went back to the SIG Security tooling meeting to continue the discussion. And this is about modernizing the security feed for Kubernetes and making the SRC job more automated and unlocking some use cases that we need to provide, especially for getting the feed more automated and having the information more ready at an early stage. So right now we have a running document. I can link it in the agenda with what we're building. So my hope is to start get some demos ready this week about how to scaffold the security feed. The goal would be to have one central security feed for whenever Kubernetes CV gets issued. We publish new document. We're considering writing this in the OSV format, and then derived from that document, we can publish everything that needs to get published from that feed, from all of the YAMLs for the databases, the release notes, and everything else. So that's where the discussion is right now. And I know what other people's end of year looks like, but I expect to have some free time when we start running to the end of the year. So I think I can work on some of those issues.
I dropped a link to the doc in the agenda here.
So that's basically where it's at right now.
All right. Any questions on that topic? All right. Release engineering, or sorry, release team. Priyanka missed the call because there's a conflict. Is anybody else from the release team here to talk about the release team? Otherwise, I can just go over the update that's there. See you, Stephen. Okay, cool. So final week of the release cycle. 129.0 RC1 is live. Thanks, Sasha, for doing that release. There's a couple of milestones coming up and everything looks green, except there are 4 docs PRs that are still pending. There were updates to the release signal handbook merge last week, and Grace and Xander sent out an email to KDev to inform them about smushing those 2 roles for 130 and later. The CNCF release webinar and stuff are all good to go. I think the one question in terms of whether things are good to go or not is the publishing bot. Do we want to hold the release if the publishing bot is still broken next week?
My feeling is that we should delay if the publishing bot is not ready, because it's once the minor version hits, lots of people will start pulling, and the tax will not be there. But this is me from just past experiencing when it breaks.
Yeah, and as downstream consumers, I think some of us can probably say that we would like to have the tags available.
Should we discuss it with the release team?
Yeah, I'll start a thread after this. Okay. All right, that brings us to open discussion, and we have a topic here: make artifact validation more robust. Road mapping tomorrow. Sasha, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so this is just a simple announcement that we are continuing to work on our roadmap tomorrow, and we have the first big topic identified, which is like about everything, about the artifact promotion, also the how we produce container image signatures and stuff like that. It's more like a brainstorming session, what we want to do. We would like to identify the key corner steps or the next steps we could do as and put it as part of our roadmap for the next year and beyond. So if you have some time, then feel free to join. But we will also outline some docs around it, not only the Miro board, for everyone to get involved asynchronously as well.
Can you record that? Because that's a little early for me.
Yeah,
be able to join.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Okay. Does anybody have any other topics they'd like to bring up? Okay, if not, then we will end a little early and give everybody some time back. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday, and see you later. I'll start a thread for the topic of should we delay the release or not, and then ping everybody. All right, see ya.
Good, thanks, yeah.
Bye.
Bye.